Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center for our favorite time of the week, the knives that are new that we look at on Thursdays usually. And today's Thursday, so we've got new knives to look at. Let's get into it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed that intro. It was great. First knife today is a new exclusive of the Real Steel Sacra, which quite honestly is, the Sacra line in general, not necessarily just this exclusive, is I think one of my favorite new affordable knives released this year, bar none. It is a really cool little blade. Our version right here is, that Stormtrooper white and black look. It's a really cool knife. 3.3 inch blade, K110 tool steel, which is Bowler's version of D2, done highly precisely, very good quality there. And the handles, this is where it sets itself apart. That is a folded steel handle. No backspace, no barrel spacers there, holding two sides of liners and G10 together. It is, a big folded liner, if you want to think of it like that, with G10 slabs over either side. It's just different enough from the other crossbar locking budget stuff out there to stand apart. The advantage of that folded construction, of course, is you get a lot of stability and strength because it's, a single piece essentially. Very, very cool. And the crossbar lock is tuned fantastically. Ball bearings in the pivot. The action is free floating, just super, super satisfying to actuate. The thumb studs work great as well. It's not a huge handle, quite honestly. For a 3.3 inch blade, as mentioned, it doesn't need a whole ton of handle to hold it in place. So folded up, this is a very, very easy knife to carry, furthered of course by the reversible deep carry pocket clip, and it does the best to get the maximum amount of edge into that handle. Feels fantastic. It's a great series. It's a great knife, and that's why I'm happy to be bringing this out as a KnifeCenter exclusive in this version right here. Best of all, the price. Same specs as the standard versions with micarta, but the price is a little bit less, just under $60 as opposed to the like $71 or so of those other versions. And you don't even get a downgrade in steel here. You got the same great edge holding stuff. Very, very nice. Next up, we've got actually something kind of similar in vibe here. New Benchmade CLAs dropped earlier this week. Two versions of them. We have the Ivory G10 and the kind of OD green G10 version. Both of them with MagnaCut blade steel. Really cool upgrade right there. We talk a lot about MagnaCut on this channel, but if you are kind of new around these parts and are unfamiliar with it, it is not only a high edge or a long lasting edge holding knife and a stainless knife, it's also an incredibly tough steel, which is a combination of three factors that are rarely able to be packaged together with such high marks on any other steel out there. So it's kind of changed the game, quite honestly, and is very desirable stuff right now. Price on these, they do have a bit of a premium over the standard model. A fair bit of premium, actually, quite honestly, $405 for these. Each of them has gold hardware, or gold colored hardware. It's not actual gold, but your deep carry pocket clip there, which is reversible, will work just the same on either side. Likewise, you have a gold firing button for that automatic action, because these are switchblades after all, and you have a gold barrel spacer there at the back. Speaking of that action note, let's check it out. Nice. It's not like a super wrist snapping action. Neither is it a light wimpy action. It seems tuned, and both of these are kind of the same story. It seems tuned really intentionally at that kind of just right level where it's for sure going to open with authority every time, but it's not, a pain to use, shall we say. The nice thing about that, though, in addition to just the niceness of how it works, is pretty easy to close one-handed. You're not having to fight too much spring to get it into the closed position. We do have a safety switch. It's mounted right here next to the button. It also works in the open position. Basically, it blocks that button from pushing in or out. So you've got a closed or open safety depending on which you prefer. Very, very cool. I love the blade on this. It's, folks know who follow around these parts that a simple drop point like this, for me, is what I love because it does just about everything very, very well. We got 3.4 inches here, a flat grind, not super high, a little bit over that halfway mark, but not too thick either. Be a pretty decent slicer, maybe not a bug out style slicer, definitely not a bug out style slicer if you're familiar with how well that knife slices, but still erring more on the side of sliciness. A black DLC tumbled finish here. They're calling it battle wash. We used to have battle wash handles, now they're using that terminology for the blade. It's a pretty good term, so I'll let them have it. Check that out, fantastic everyday carry if you're looking for an automatic to carry every day. One more MagnaCut Benchmade to take a look at. This actually debuted last week. The MagnaCut Taggedout in stock, $337 and some change for this one. You get the same, thin, slicey blade as the original with its full flat grind, 3.5 inches, but now with the MagnaCut steel. Very, very thin, very, very slicey, and the extra toughness of MagnaCut is going to pay dividends there in helping the edge stay very stable, more resistant to chipping and that sort of thing. Whereas a more brittle steel might have some problems if you're pushing it real hard. The MagnaCut here should pay dividends for sure. It's a pretty lightweight knife too, just over 2 ounces, and that's thanks to the carbon fiber handles here, which, this is part of their Hunt series, which is why you see, the bright orange essentially. It's kind of unusual sometimes to think of a, fancy material like carbon fiber paired up with, something that's designed to be used outdoors. I don't tend to think of carbon fiber as like an outdoorsy material, but it does pay dividends in the weight reduction there. Orange backspacer there to match things up. Action from the ambidextrous axis lock. Superb. Ready to go right out of the box. You can thumb open it with that cutout. You could probably reverse flick it. There you go. That works too. Again, everything on this knife, I'm happy to report, is fully ambidextrous too. The pocket clip is deep carry and reversible. The crossbar lock is ambidextrous, and the opening hole, of course, works just the same on either side. Very, very cool design with that cool new seal.
Just think of carbon fiber as carbon micarta.
No, it's not carbon micarta. That's not how this works. 3 new CRKTs dropped last week in honor of the National Knife Day holiday. The first is a Flavio Acoma design. This is the Bot, coming in at $130. And we're seeing a new blade material that I don't believe CRKT has used at any point in the past, but this is AUS 10 stainless steel. So really cool to see them branching out a little bit. In terms of similarities, maybe kind of similar to something like VG10, in the same kind of ballpark of performance, whatever you want to call it in any case. It is stainless, but it is also black coated, more for style than anything here. Jade G10 handles and the deadbolt lock, which is a big button on the front side. So, it is the pivot, and it has that, think of like the deadbolt at the door at your house. That's the shape anyway. 2 hardened posts of steel going through the tang of the blade to lock it up, and there it is in the locked up position. Push the button out, you can see it lifts up, and you can kind of see those posts right there. This is an assisted opening knife too, which means nice repeatable action every time. Ergos feel pretty good to me. It's flat-sided G10, but you get 3 solid fingers on it for a really, honestly, a very solid hold. And if you want to choke up a little bit into that, I wouldn't even, we'll call that a choil. A big finger choil there for choke up purposes. Helps you get finer control there. Plenty of belly on this design. I love the blade shape. I love the grind too. Full flat grind. It's going to be quite slicey indeed. Single position, deep carry pocket clip right here. Maybe for the best. It might be a little awkward to use disengage with the left hand. In any case, really sweet little design right here. right, this next one is actually half price compared to the Bot, and they've still managed to bring that AUS 10 down into this price range as well. This is the PSD2. It is a smaller version of the PSD, the Jim Hammond design, which stands for, if you weren't aware, particle separation device, which is exactly what a knife is. I love that name. Smaller, more convenient size, just about a 3-inch blade, AUS 10, like I mentioned, really, really good performance envelope for this $65 price point. Drop point, high flat grind, thin and slicey, very nice. G10 handles, single position, deep carry pocket clip, and flipping action. This is an assisted opener. It flips open great. And before you look at this flipper tab and say, hey, that looks a little funky, because I did the same thing, rest assured it actually doesn't get in the way like I thought it was going to. Because the way you're going to grip this knife, you know, using your index finger in that big finger choil area, that tab just kind of sits between your first two fingers and you don't even feel it in the way. It's very nicely executed. What I like as well is that in that grip, the edge of the blade doesn't actually sharpen through to the finger choil. So you have a little bit of safety right there. It feels a little more, you know, a little more safe gripping it up there, not having to worry about the heel of the blade kissing your finger right there. That is a pretty cool thing. Liner lock, assisted opening action, like I mentioned. This is actually a 2-position pocket clip. I didn't mention that before. You could carry this tip down as well if you wish, but right hand only in either case. Thumbs up for me. Okay, bringing back to this knife, because Thomas just made a really good joke. This is AUS 10. It has kind of a weird looking flipper tab, let's be honest. Say it again.
Keep AUS 10 weird.
It's pretty good. I like that. I had to give you your moment to shine there. That was worthy of inclusion. Next up, one more CRKT, the A.B.C, another Jim Hammond design. That's the all bases covered. It's liking the acronym, or the, what's the, not acronym, acronym?
Yes.
That's the word. Get the names here. $65 for this one as well. Sandvik's 12C27 on this particular knife. Probably shouldn't hold an edge as long as the AUS 10, but it is going to be tougher. And with the nice pointy serrations, toughness can be a good thing too, so less likely to break off there. But really good stainless steel, really good toughness all around. Bigger than the PSD2, 3.4 inches on the blade, Tonto profile as you can see, and those VEF serrations with their kind of backward rake, really aggressive on the pull cuts especially. Handles are G10, and the pocket clip on all of it, now it's not an identical pocket clip, but it's close. Deep carry pocket clip, single position right side tip up in this case. Ergos on this are pretty cool too, and actually holding it next to that other Jim Hammond design, the PSD2 here, you can see some similarities on the finger wrap side of the handle between the two of these. Kind of cool there. Feels good in the hand. More kind of real estate for a bigger grip on this knife. You could get right up there on the choil and finger choil, and again, not sharpened through the edge, the back of the edge, so there's some safety there, and you got some jimping for a little extra traction. But you could also choke back, get a little more reach on this one quite easily. Rounding out the knife, we've got a liner lock. We've got assisted opening action, which flips it quite nicely. The only other thing I think I'd say about all of these, but yeah, I mean, especially on this one right here, I'm noticing there's never been like a problem with CRKT's edges before. They always come nicely sharpened, but these just look, you know, another step up from what I'm used to seeing from them, especially on this one. It looks almost convexed, very highly refined. It almost reminds me of a Hogue edge, quite honestly. Good job, guys, good job.
Wonder if Hogue taught them a few things.
It might have done, or taught their Chinese factories some things anyway. Speaking of though, like value for dollar in terms of, you know, the least amount of money you can pay to get some really good, you know, super steel, this knife is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. The Kubey Drake Nest. It's $80. You've got a 3.5 inch reverse Tonto blade.
Good job.
M390 steel for $80. That is kind of insane. And not just a little shrimpy blade either. This is a full-sized folder with plenty of edge to work with. Very, very nice indeed. High flat grind on that reverse Tonto blade. I'm actually a fan of this shape in general. You got a bit of belly to the edge itself. Kind of reminds me a bit more of a modified sheep's foot in the way you're going to actually cut through things, the way it'll act. G10 handles, inset liner lock, not just slapped on liners, inset liner lock, ball bearings in the pivot, snippety action, sure, we'll leave that in. You can reverse flick it. It's got a milled pocket clip and everything. I mean, I don't think that's titanium actually. It actually looks like it might be steel. Let me see, do we have it listed here? It does say it's titanium. Okay, my mistake. 80 bucks, you guys. 80 bucks for a 3.5-inch M390 blade. You know, with the only thing it lacks is like a fancy handle material, but that's how you get to that 80 bucks. It's got everything. Shoot. Shot across the bow, I should say. Well done. Speaking of OS 10, we just talked about that. The Kubey Flash flipper. Almost a 4-inch blade, OS 10 steel here as well, $48. Where'd these guys come from, man? They're knocking this stuff out of the park. G10 handles, ball bearing, crisp flicking action, reversible deep carry pocket clip on this one. Great big utility knife, basically. You know, reverse Tonto blade. Good cutting geometry though. It's not too thick. You've got a high flat grind.
I'm out of words.
Like, how are they doing that? You know, we get a lot of complaints sometimes that, you know, everything we show is expensive. Why are there so many expensive knives? Where's all the good cheap stuff? Check out the Kubey brand. Really great. These next things are not quite so inexpensive, but they got a heap of a lot more attitude. Couple of Work Tuff fixed blades dropping today in conjunction with this video. The first from our good friend Zeke Minacho, the Nomad Camp 12, a big 12-inch bladed chopper of a chopper. Check that out. The blade has that same great Nomad DNA. Really cool. They call this a reverse Tonto too.
I will.
But a lot of belly on this bad boy. Looks like it should have a really good sweet spot out here for chopping. Probably about right there, I would guess. As promised in its name, Camp 12, you've got a 12-inch blade, and all of it is sharpened in this case. No finger choil to rob you of any valuable edge. That comes all the way back to the finger guard there. So if you need a big, long slice, you can do it with a knife like this. Just impressive. I should also mention their edges, very nicely finished, highly refined, convexed, very cool. 1/4-inch thick, a lot of toughness here, a lot of hitting potential. K340 steel, which actually is at least partially stainless, about 8% chromium in this. So it's, you know, a big tough blade that's not necessarily going to rust away on you. A lot of folks will appreciate that. As such, we've got some kind of uncoated finishes here. This is a satin, and this is paired with, what's the name of it? Let me get it right. The Pit Viper G10 handles. I think black is also available at this point. Tons of grip on that handle. You got space to choke back a little bit if you want, unless you have really big booger hooks on your hand right there. Can we say booger hooks? You're gonna leave it in. That's rude. That's crude of me. I'm very sorry. But plenty there to grab onto. You got a pinch grip if you want to engage this in kind of a rocky, choppy thing, whether you're doing woodwork or I wouldn't food prep with it, but at least it has that kind of ergonomic quality to it. It makes me feel like I want to in any case. And one of my favorite features, forward lanyard hole. So for safety, I love that because when you stick your hand down through, and it wraps around your wrist, if you drop the blade, it tends to stay put, which is, in my opinion, the best way to go for lanyarding your big choppers. Price on these, about 300 bucks. Comes with a Kydex sheath with some noisy bits. It's really gonna make Thomas happy when he goes to do this edit. That's because it has these D-ring attachments to go along with the sling that is provided to help you carry this. And I would recommend carrying it that way and not with the included belt attachment hardware that comes in the box too, because it's just going to drag just about even the heaviest gun belt down, I would think. But it comes with a soft case, comes with a sling to carry the knife as well. They always do phenomenally well at just giving you a completed package for what you're paying. Next up, from Tuff, offering a pretty big contrast to the Nomad Camp 12, yet still absolutely statement making in its own right, is the Panthera. Only a 6-inch blade here, but it is very, very striking. It is like the K340 on the Nomad Camp 12, also made by Bowler. This is K329. It also has about 8% chromium. Apart from that, I'm sorry to say I don't know a ton about either of them. I haven't used either of those steels personally, but I know this K329 is often used in machining knives in the woodworking industry. So take that for what it's worth. It should stand up pretty well. I anticipate it being fairly tough. The designer of this knife describes the shape of the blade thusly. Well, I would describe it as a trailing point tanto, but in terms of the intended uses, it's a knife first, an axe second, a kitchen knife third, and a shovel fourth. Designed to, kind of be your one tool option survival knife, essentially. At least that's how I read things there. Not quite a 1/4 inch thick on this one, but close to it. You've got a longer handle here to make up for the slightly shorter blade. If you wanted to choke back, you could get a little more leverage for a heavier chop when you needed to, or you get right up close to it and it actually balances out pretty well for some smaller stuff. I could see this working pretty well as a notcher or small woodworker right here. You could probably do some draw knife stuff with it too, with that big broad section up there. Just watch the leading edge. Pretty cool. Very different from most of the stuff I typically take out in the outdoors, but it'd be something I'd have fun playing with out there, I think. Have fun trying out. Sheath is likewise Kydex. Here it is, and it comes with a belt attachment hardware. No sling for this one because this is much more manageable than the Camp 12 we just looked at. I love the Tuff stuff. I'm so happy we're able to carry it. It is made really well. It's not cheap, but you're getting a lot for what you're paying for, I do believe. Check those out. If you'd rather have something even easier to carry for your outdoor fixed blade, check out the SOG Provider FX. $150 for this, and it's designed to not necessarily be super lightweight, but to eliminate a lot of bulk. This has minimal G10 handles here with some cutouts, gives you a little extra traction from those cutouts because your fingers naturally kind of wrap into those. But it's got just enough there so that it doesn't feel like it's just a scrawny handle. Some folks may prefer a little bit thicker. In fact, I might personally, but it's not that bad. Folks with smaller hands especially, I think, will appreciate that. But the shaping's done pretty nicely. You've got a nice kind of cutaway here at the leading edge of the scale, so it stays out of the way when you need to choke up on the blade and get up there for the finer stuff. The blade itself, 3 3/4 inch. Nice full flat ground drop point blade, 154 cm steel, almost full length jimping there for a little extra traction. And I'm betting those are gonna strike a ferro rod pretty nicely if you wanna use it for that. Did I mention that on the Tuffs? No, the spines on the Tuffs are nice and crisp, so you could easily strike a ferro rod with those as well. But no, I like the design of this knife. It's minimal and ultimately the best survival knife you have on you, or the best survival knife is the one you have on you, and the easier something is to carry, the more likely you are to have it in a survival scenario. Sorry, I'm stumbling over a lot of my words today.
It'll be fun at it.
Sorry, folks. But it's just a solid design. The sheath, where is it? There it is. It was hiding under the Tuff sheaths over there. Is nice and minimal too. Injection molded. You've got a clip on the back, which actually is featured. What do they call this? Shoot, I forgot. Their universal mounting system. Apologies. That will allow you to kind of rotate this clip into some different angles based on your preferences. But the whole thing, very easy to pack, very easy to carry, and a very versatile, capable design. So let's look at some more, we'll say some more formal, fancier knives. The carbon fiber Taggedout gets close, but the orange kind of makes it not so gentlemanly, not so formal situation appropriate. Let's kind of do a few of those things now. Another new carbon, that's carbon with a K, the new Ken Onion brand. This is the Tidbit frame lock flipper, $80, because this is, unlike the Ahoy that we saw last week, which is a Riot made knife, this is a Taiwanese knife, still made quite well, but of course Riot is world-class levels of quality, but it's that you're paying a lot less for this knife design. N690 steel, 3-inch blade, really cool sweep to the edge, and very Ken Onion-y blade shape, but in a kind of narrower form factor than we sometimes see from him. But I really like that edge. It's gonna have a great subtle sweep to it. Work great as a little steak knife, just in case if you need it, but any kind of slicing on a surface work is gonna be really cool with that. Slim stainless steel handles, frame lock, single position pocket clip, nested into the frame for a little extra stability. A few different versions of this. This is the least expensive, coming in at that $80 price point. We've got some black coated handles, black coated blades. Those pop up to about $88. And there's a really cool kind of flower engraved handle version as well. Or I'm not sure if it's printed or engraved, but check it out. Also about $88. The release for the frame lock bar is right there flush with the handle, so you kind of have to push down from the top and over. Works nicely once you kind of get the hang of that. Flips really nicely. I mean, are these washers in this pivot? They don't quite, yeah, not ball bearings. We've actually got washers in there, and yet it flips quite nicely. Very well tuned indeed. Very cool little gentleman's flipper right there. Next up, Berg blades. Their latest release is the Sweeney, their newest mid-tech knife, made by We Knives for them, actually, in this case. Several different versions, 335 for this one. Micarta versions start around the 325 mark, but the marbled carbon fiber here with the titanium frame with integral bolsters, I think looks especially classy for sure. 3.35-inch blade, drop point shape, 20 CV steel, an American-made steel, very nice. High flat grind, not super thin, but not so thick that it's going to be unwieldy. Full length swedge essentially right there. Let's check out the action. Oh no, it's a front flipper. Actually, it's kind of a toppy front flipper, which means I can usually do those a little bit better. So there you go, that works pretty darn well actually. We've also got the thumb cutout or reverse finger flicking cutout. And man, actually that was really satisfying feeling. Yeah, that's nice. Ball bearings in the pivot, you probably expected that, and you'd be right. Milled titanium pocket clip, no visible screw attaching it from the outside. Attaches from the inside, keeping it nice and classy. And that's fine because you're probably not gonna be reversing this because you can't. So there's no real need to take that clip off regularly at the very least. Very, very cool. Feels good in the hand. The action is great. You know, We, of course, makes a good product, We Knife Company, and it's certainly the case here. That's going to be a very classy, yet very highly capable everyday carry for bigger jobs, and it'll look good doing it. Next up, a new Ohlone, or Ohlone. I still don't know how to pronounce them.
Knife guy.
It's probably just Ohlone, right?
Maybe.
This is the Butron knife. Like the Berg, they're partnering with an overseas manufacturer for their OEM on this. This is made by Riot. Like we've talked about that before. World-class construction for sure. 3.25-inch 20 CV blade. Nice, sleek profile with the drop point there. Just a bare hint of recurve there too. I mean, just a little bit. And you know, with Riot's precision there, sometimes you'll see stuff that, you know, gets recurved in the sharpening process, but it might not have necessarily been intended to be a recurve. In Riot's case, I am sure that was intentional. I've never seen them botch a straight heel on a blade before, so I don't anticipate they did here. It's a really subtle but really cool little detail. As for the handles, very neutral, very useful for any hand size. Styling-wise, maybe not color, but at least the design, Reminds me kind of a lot of kind of an old school custom knife, that real classy, real highly refined style. Not used to seeing them with red G10. You might see like, ivory or white or some other stuff, but it's that same kind of thing. But red G10 for the scales, for the backspacer, and the pivot ring. Red G10, actually, they're not an anodized color. Titanium frame with integral bolster right there. Single position pocket clip. Very cool looking from the side profile, in fact. And let's check out the flipping action on this one. Very, very nice. Lockup is solid. Flip up is solid too. I'm digging that blade shape a lot. That's going to feel very nice day to day. Yeah, super, super nice. If you don't want the red, there is a green option as well. That's a little more subtle.
How festive.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's not like a bright green though. It's more like a Ranger green or an OD green. So
we're not picky here.
It's a military Christmas. Get them now before the holiday rush. Last but not least, one of the most successful knives in the last few years, the CJRB Pyrite, now available with pink G10 in its original format with the drop point and in its alt format with the modified sheep's foot blade profile. I'll only talk about one. Thomas, which one should I talk about more?
Gee, I wonder which one I'll pick.
All right, the drop point it is. 50 bucks for these bad boys. Blades just over that 3-inch mark. I love the drop point here. It's thin, slicey, almost a full flat grind. The other one's nice too. Don't call it a reverse Tonto, but it's nice too. Truly is, actually. RPM 9 steel here, so powder metallurgy at a very affordable price. It's not going to equal the performance of something like S30V, but it is going to be very capable indeed. Button lock action, that is quite nice. Finger safe, fidget friendly. Works really well for lefties too, which is why they allow you to move the pocket clip over to the left side, even though it's a right-hand biased lock. Works great for lefties too. Check it out. The pink is quite good. Sometimes pinks, when we see them come, a little dull, but not in this case. I think it's going to make a great option. But that's all we have for this week. Thank you for sticking with me as I struggled through today's video for no apparent reason whatsoever. But anyway, thank you. Let me know what you thought of the knives down there in the comments section below. And if you want to get your hands on any of these things, check out the links in the description that'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. Where don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, which lets you earn up to 5% back, and actually sometimes even more, towards a future knife when you buy one of these knives today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time. Hopefully with better diction.
No guarantees.